I now give the floor to His Excellency Archbishop Paul Richard Gallagher, Secretary for Relations with States of the Holy See.
Mr. President, I am pleased to convey the warm greetings and blessings of Pope Leo XIV to you and the representatives of the nations gathered here, and to congratulate you on your election to lead this assembly. At the outset, I would like to thank this General Assembly for the tribute paid to Pope Francis following his demise last April. As you may all know, when Pope Leo XIV was elected, his first words to the world were, "Peace be with you all." A peace that is unarmed and disarming, humble and persevering. In a word torn by wars and conflicts, he made peace to be his first message. Mr. President, the theme chosen for this year's general debate, Better Together, 80 years and more for peace, development and human rights, highlights the ongoing importance of multilateral cooperation in addressing global issues. This is particularly pertinent this year as the international community commemorates the establishment of the United Nations in 1945. It is an opportune moment to reaffirm the organization's core values of fostering international peace, development, and universal human rights, values that are all the more important in an increasingly fragmented world. It is crucial for the international community to take collective action to prevent and end conflicts, combat poverty, and advance human rights solemnly declared in the 1948 Universal Declaration, and one of the most important achievements of this organization. It is important to remember that isolationism leads to unpredictable instability, whereas unity fosters responsible resilience and shared progress. This is strikingly evident in the current circumstances, where escalating geopolitical tensions, a raging climate crisis, widening inequalities, and rising poverty demand renewed global solidarity. The United Nations must adapt itself to a transformed world and maintain its effectiveness in the face of emerging threats such as environmental degradation and technological disruption, which no single country can tackle alone. As representatives of all the nations of the globe, we are united by our shared humanity, created in the image and likeness of God, called to live in fraternity, solidarity, and mutual respect. In a world grappling with mounting challenges, it is necessary to recommit to the foundational pillars of peace, justice, and truth. It is imperative to explore and build on these pillars, while drawing lessons from history to forge a more equitable future. Mr. President, of the many crises currently affecting the international community, the war in Ukraine is one of the most profound and painful. Its prolonged existence is turning once vibrant cities into piles of rubble and extinguishing the smiles of children who should be growing up playing games instead of living amid the constant sound of sirens and in shelters. This war must end now. The Holy See renews the appeal made by Pope Leo XIV for an immediate ceasefire, which will pave the way for sincere and courageous dialogue. The Holy See is paying close attention to the situation in the Middle East with a view to achieving a just and lasting peace between Israel and Palestine based on a two-state solution in accordance with international law and all relevant United Nations resolutions. Pope Leo XIV implored that all the hostages be freed, that a permanent ceasefire be reached, that the safe entry of humanitarian aid be facilitated, and that humanitarian law be fully respected, especially the obligations to protect civilians as well as prohibitions of collective punishment, indiscriminate use of force, and the forced displacement of the population. Moreover, an equitable solution to the issue of Jerusalem based on international resolutions is essential for achieving a just and permanent peace. Any unilateral decision or action which alters the special status of Jerusalem and the status quo is morally and legally unacceptable. With regard to Syria, the Holy See supports the importance of a peaceful and just transition in the country, as well as the protection of the rights of Syrians of all ethnic and religious backgrounds without discrimination. The instability afflicting many African states generates profound and interconnected challenges. In this scenario, the Sahel, Cabo Delgado, and some areas of the Horn of Africa emerge as zones of instability. In fact, the jihadist threat, endemic poverty, illicit trafficking, the climate crisis, and internal conflicts converge in a spiral that puts the lives of millions of people at risk, despite the efforts of local governments. In the face of these challenges, the resilience of African communities, especially young people, remains an essential resource that must be supported with targeted investments in education, health, infrastructure, and inclusive governance models. More than ever, a coherent and lasting commitment by the international community is essential to support African countries on their path to stability, peace, and economic development. The deterioration of the situation in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo is a source of concern for the Holy See. The provinces of Ituri, North Kivu, and South Kivu are experiencing ethnic tensions, violence perpetrated by rebel groups, armed clashes, serious human rights violations, and disputes over the exploitation of natural resources. The Holy See welcomes the signing of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement between the DRC and the M23 armed group, as well as the peace agreement signed by the Congolese and Rwandan foreign ministers, which aims to end the decades of fighting in the East. The Alliance Democratic Forces carried out a brutal terroristic attack on a church in Komanda, Ituri, resulting in the death of more than 40 worshippers. The withdrawal of MONUSCO raises questions about its ability to fulfill its mandate and address ongoing challenges. It is essential to strengthen the support of the international community and diplomatic and political mediation efforts to ensure that the parties fulfill their commitments and find a stable and appropriate solution to the ongoing situation. The fratricidal conflict in Sudan is also a source of grave concern. The Holy See strongly renews its appeal for an immediate cessation of hostilities and the commencement of genuine negotiations, the only means by which all Sudanese people can forge a future of peace and reconciliation. The Holy See is monitoring developments in South Sudan closely and is calling on all political actors to commit to the path of dialogue and collaboration, and to implement the 2018 peace agreement with sincerity and responsibility as the foundation for building a peaceful and just coexistence. In many parts of the world, particularly in Latin America, drug trafficking is corroding societies and causing extreme violence. The Holy See is deeply concerned about this complex phenomenon. which is often linked to unresolved social issues in different countries. Alongside joint efforts by states to combat drug trafficking, the Holy See emphasizes the importance of investing in human development, such as education and job creation, to prevent people from unwittingly becoming involved. The Holy See is also worried about the rising tensions in the Caribbean Sea and is calling for restraint to prevent any actions that could destabilize the coexistence between nations and undermine international law. The dramatic situation in Haiti is also being closely followed by the Holy See. The country is plagued by violence of all kinds, human trafficking, forced exile, and kidnappings. The Holy See hopes that with the necessary and concrete support of the international community, the social and institutional conditions can be created to enable Haitians to progress towards peace and security. The Holy See is paying close attention to the situation in Nicaragua and hopes that religious freedom and other fundamental rights of individuals and society will be adequately guaranteed. The Holy See reiterates the need for sincere, respectful, and constructive engagement in dialogue aimed at finding solutions that will foster peace and harmony in the country. Turning to Southeast Asia, numerous situations of instability and conflict are further exacerbating long-standing humanitarian concerns. In Myanmar, 4.5 years of internal conflict have left the local population devastated. In this situation of enduring conflict, transnational crime is on the rise. Recent investigations suggest that there are tens, if not hundreds of thousands of trafficked individuals in these centers, located primarily along the borders between Myanmar, Thailand, China, Cambodia, and Laos. Only by the concerted efforts of the international community can transnational crime be adequately addressed. The Holy See is closely following developments in the Western Balkans, particularly in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The Balkan countries are connected to European values for historical and cultural and geographical reasons, and they aspire institutionally to integrate with states that already belong to the European Union. The Holy See maintains that the historical and current issues affecting the region can only be resolved through dialogue and collaboration. The Holy See, while acknowledging the peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan signed in August, invites the two countries to continue on the path of reconciliation in order to achieve stable and lasting peace in the South Caucasus. Mr. President, on the occasion of the 80th anniversary of the United Nations, the Holy See reaffirms the enduring importance of this institution and the significant good it has accomplished across numerous fronts since its founding in 1945. The United Nations continues to be a vital forum in which all nations engage in dialogue as sovereign equals to address global challenges. There is an increasing general agreement in the international community on the need to reform this institution by rediscovering its foundation and adapting it to reflect the needs of the current era. As Pope Leo XIV affirms, this effort demands a genuine willingness to engage in dialogue inspired by the desire to communicate rather than clash. As a result, there is a need to give new life to multilateral diplomacy and to those international institutions conceived and designed primarily to remedy eventual disputes within the international community. The Holy See calls for a recommitment to the original principles enshrined in the UN Charter. It is important to resist the temptation to replace these foundational commitments with new ideas or programs that risk diluting the UN's mission. Central to this mission is striking a balance between the 4 pillars of the United Nations, promoting of human rights, maintaining international peace and security, achieving sustainable development, and upholding rule of law. The rule of law, in particular, is the sine qua non of a just international order, providing the foundation for all other efforts. This anniversary provides an opportunity to reinforce the United Nations position as a beacon of hope and a force for good in addressing humanity's most urgent needs.
I thank the Secretary for Relations with States of the Holy See.